Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of you for being with us today and for all you do for our country. I want to talk a little bit about the Utah testing and training range. As we discuss the modernization of our aircraft and of our weapons systems, it seems appropriate to me that we ought to discuss the need to make sure that our test and training ranges are there and available to be used so that we can test fifth-generation weapons systems against emerging threats that are becoming more and more sophisticated all the time and that are sort of closing the gap. You know, I'm pleased to report that just 2 weeks ago, an F-35 with the 34th Fighter Squadron at Hill Air Force Base successfully deployed and dropped a laser-guided bomb over the UTTR. I'm a co-sponsor of a piece of legislation along with Senator Hatch that would enhance the UTTR, and that I think would in turn enable the Air Force to more effectively test the F-35 and other fifth-generation aircraft for the coming decades. So, General Holmes and General Raymond, I'd like to ask you, can you detail for the committee the importance of preparing these ranges for testing fifth-generation weapon systems and protecting them from issues that could compromise their ability, our ability to use them?
Senator, it's a great point. It's one that we're also putting a lot of focus on as part of our readiness pillar. One of the pillars of readiness that we focus on is training. And over the course of this this budget, we have put forward about $1 billion extra to focus on that training, focusing on making sure the ranges have those capabilities that they need to simulate that high-end threat, to make sure that we have the airspace required to be able to do that. We're working live, virtual, and constructive training as well to help with that effort. But it's something that is going to be absolutely critical for our readiness going forward. We put some funding into it this year to be able to start that and sustain that growth.
Glad to hear that, General.
And, sir, we appreciate, Senator, the efforts you and Senator Hatch have made in your act to avoid encroachment on the ranges. That's certainly important to us to keep that airspace. We'll have to move a lot of our highest-end training into simulators because we don't want people to watch us do that highest-end training, but we're always going to have a need.
That would be fun for everyone. But
we're always going to have a need for the real ranges to fly real airplanes against real threat emitters so we can make sure that things work, and that's where we're trying to put that money over the next 5 years.
Great.
That Jay talked about.
No, thank you. Several of my colleagues and I have expressed concerns about hiring issues at Air Force depots, which is a challenge faced by depots across the services. The time it takes to hire civilian workers for some of these positions, including and especially things like engineers and some of our maintenance technicians, are ridiculously long. I mean, these are time frames that would put a private sector business really out of business. So I know this is something the Air Force is working on, and we look forward to assisting in any way we can to alleviate the problem. But how will these hiring issues impact your modernization efforts if they're not addressed?
So, Senator Lee, thank you for the question. Hiring of civilians at our depots is a key concern and one we're working very feverishly. I know that we've been over and presented information to you in the Depot Caucus on some of those initiatives. It can impact. We make decisions based on a number of people coming in. We've had an action team going from AFMC. We've also got a team at AFPC, and the Air Staff A1 is rolled into this, trying to streamline that process, trying to get as many authorities as low in the organization as is possible. And it is something that we're tracking very closely, but it is critical that we hire more people in a more timely manner.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Over the last 2 years, there have been a lot of discussions in this committee regarding the Air Force's plans to retire the A-10 and move its uniformed maintainers to new F-35 units. Now that you've decided to keep the A-10 operational, what steps are being taken to ensure that the F-35 has the required maintenance personnel so that we can make sure that this is covered both in the short term and in the long term?
So thank you, Senator. We're kind of doing everything we can think of, including the suggestions that we got from this committee, in previous years. So we're contracting out maintenance in some of our non-deployable squadrons, particularly training units. In this budget, we asked to hire civilian contractors to do the work at places where we train people to fly the fighter so that we can free maintenance people up there to go to F-35 school. We're asking our reserve and guard to help us, and in several places, notably they are primarily at Luke and at Hill, as we change the mission there. We're amending our high year of tenure rules so that we can keep a tech sergeant, skilled mechanic longer than the rule set would allow them to stay in the Air Force at that grade. We've reviewed the bonuses for maintainers to try to retain more so that we have a larger force. And then with the end strength that we've requested increase in this budget, a healthy portion of that end strength goes to training more maintainers to fill in that gap. And we stood up additional instructors and classroom time in our tech training school to try to provide people to fill those requirements.
Could I add, we also made a down payment and procured some additional manpower in this budget and specifically targeted them to maintainers. One of our big readiness levers is having the right folks with the right skill set, and we've started that initial procurement of additional bodies this year.
Wonderful. That's helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator McCain.